Something impossible just happened. While you were sleeping last night, a wave of spiritual energy moved through the ethers and marked you. Not symbolically, not metaphorically, literally. Your energetic signature was scanned, measured, and logged by forces that exist beyond the veil of ordinary perception. And what they found made them pause. Because you did something that less than 1% of souls at your level ever accomplish. You saw through a smile. Not just any smile, a calculated one. A smile that was engineered to lower your guard, to make you trust, to make you lean in closer so that something could be extracted from you. But you didn't bite. You felt the coldness behind the warmth. You noticed the microsecond delay before the laughter. You caught the way their eyes didn't sync with their words. And in that moment, without even realizing it, you activated a level of spiritual discernment that most people spend lifetimes trying to develop. The beings who monitor human consciousness flagged you immediately. Because what you did is rare. It's not cynicism. It's not paranoia. It's clarity. And clarity at your level of awakening is a weapon. That smile was a test. You passed. And now everything accelerates. The universe doesn't wait for people who can see in the dark. It pulls them forward. It removes the training wheels. It stops protecting them from the truth. Because you're ready now. Ready to know that not everyone clapping for you wants you to win. That not every ally is aligned. That some people study you the way a locksmith studies a door. And the moment you recognized that, the moment you chose not to ignore what your spirit was screaming, you became untouchable. The kind of untouchable that makes both light and shadow sit up and pay attention. This level of discernment isn't supposed to emerge this early in a soul's journey. Spiritual scholars and mystics across traditions agree that true discernment, the kind that pierces illusion without becoming hardened, usually takes multiple lifetimes to cultivate. Most souls spend entire incarnations learning to trust, then entire incarnations learning when not to trust, swinging like a pendulum between naivety and bitterness. They either give their power away to anyone with kind words, or they close off completely, seeing enemies everywhere. But you've somehow landed in the narrow space between those extremes. You can feel danger without becoming defensive. You can sense calculation without becoming cold. This is what the ancient texts call the eye of the soul, the ability to perceive intention beneath action, motive beneath gesture, shadow beneath light. In Kabbalistic tradition, this gift is associated with Bina, the divine understanding that separates truth from appearance. In Buddhist teaching, it's called prajna, penetrating wisdom that sees through the veils of Maya. The Sufis call it firasa, the ability to read hearts. Every spiritual lineage has a name for it because every lineage knows how rare it is. Most humans live and die without ever accessing it. They take people at face value. They believe the performance. They mistake charm for character and attention for affection. But not you. Something in your blueprint is different. Whether you were encoded this way before birth, or whether suffering carved this capacity into you, the result is the same. You have become dangerous to deception. And that changes everything. Because the spiritual realms operate on frequency, and frequency attracts response. When you emit the signal of clarity, forces on both sides of the spectrum notice. The light sees an ally. The shadow sees a threat. And both begin moving pieces on the board accordingly. Your awakening just became everyone's business. Now think back over the last few weeks. Go deeper than surface memory. There was a moment, maybe you dismissed it as small, where someone approached you with warmth that felt rehearsed. Maybe it was a colleague who suddenly started praising your work after months of silence. Maybe it was an old friend who resurfaced with enthusiasm that seemed slightly off-tempo. Maybe it was someone new who mirrored your energy so perfectly. It felt like fate, but something in your gut whispered caution. You felt it, that flicker of wrongness beneath the right words. And here's what matters. You didn't gaslight yourself. You didn't tell yourself you were being unfair or judgmental. You didn't force yourself to accept the smile just because rejecting it felt uncomfortable. You honored the signal. Even if you said nothing outwardly, even if you played along socially, internally you stepped back. You created space. You withheld full trust. You decided to watch and wait rather than dive in and hope. That was the decision. That was the crossroads. Most people fail that test because the need to be liked overrides the whisper of intuition. The fear of seeming cold or suspicious makes them ignore what they know. But you chose differently. You chose integrity over comfort. You chose self-protection over people-pleasing. And in doing so, you made a moral decision that resonated through dimensions. Because every choice is a vote. Every time you honor your discernment, you cast a ballot for truth. Every time you refuse to pretend you don't see what you see, you align with the frequency that heaven recognizes and hell respects. This wasn't paranoia. This wasn't you being difficult. This was you refusing to abandon yourself for the sake of someone else's agenda. And that refusal sent a signal into the cosmos that said, I am awake. I am sovereign. I will not be manipulated. The universe heard it and responded. What you don't know yet is that you've been under observation for far longer than you realize. Not by humans, by the architects of fate itself. There are forces in the unseen realms whose sole responsibility is to monitor souls at critical junctures, moments where a single decision can alter an entire trajectory. These watchers exist beyond time, stationed at the intersections of destiny and free will. Some call them angels. Others call them guides, guardians, record keepers. The ancient Hebrews called them the Watchers. The Greeks called them demons, not demons, but intermediary spirits assigned to specific souls. Every major spiritual tradition describes them because every tradition knows they're real. And they've been tracking you. Not because you're special in the way ego wants to be special, but because your soul carries a mission that requires protection, testing, and activation at precise moments. They've watched you choose honesty when lying was easier. They've watched you walk away from money that had strings attached. They've watched you stay silent instead of defending yourself to people who wouldn't understand anyway. They've logged every moment you chose integrity over image, every time you honored your inner knowing over external pressure. And recently, their reports flagged something significant. You started seeing through masks. You started catching the performance before the curtain dropped. You started recognizing strategy disguised as spontaneity. This is a threshold skill. It means you're no longer operating purely on surface-level consciousness. You've begun accessing the deeper layer, the one where motive is visible, where energy speaks louder than words. And the moment you access that layer, darker forces took notice too. Because manipulation only works on people who can't see it. The moment you become immune to deception, you become a problem. Not a victim, a problem. And problems get handled differently. You've just moved from being a target to being a threat. And threats get studied, tested, and if possible, neutralized. The game just changed. And you're playing whether you like it or not. Now let's rewind further and connect the dots you didn't know were connected. Over the past months, maybe even years, you've been placed in situation after situation designed to measure your character when no one was watching. Remember the time someone confided in you and you kept it sacred, even when sharing it would have elevated you socially? That was a test. Remember when you were offered a shortcut that required compromising someone else, and you refused even though it cost you? That was a test. Remember the moment you chose to tell the difficult truth instead of the convenient lie, knowing it would make you unpopular? That was a test. Every single time you stood at a fork in the road, integrity on one side, advantage on the other, you were being observed, not judged. Observed. The universe doesn't judge. It measures capacity. It checks structural integrity. It determines whether a soul can handle greater assignments without corrupting. Think of it like this. Before you give someone access to powerful tools, you need to know they won't misuse them. Before you grant someone influence, you need to know they won't weaponize it. Before you elevate someone into a position where many will follow them, you need to know they won't lead from ego. So the tests come, quietly, subtly, woven into ordinary moments. A chance to cheat and get away with it. A chance to betray and be rewarded. A chance to abandon your principles and gain approval. Each one a crossroads. Each one recorded, and you passed. Not perfectly, perfection isn't the standard, but consistently. You kept choosing alignment over advantage. You kept returning to your core, even when the detour was tempting. You kept honoring the invisible over the visible. And after enough tests, after enough data points, a classification occurs. The watchers confer. A decision is made, and you get moved from one category to another, from unproven to validated, from potential to active, from student to warrior. This isn't metaphor. This is mechanics. And you just graduated. In the councils that exist beyond the noise of human drama, your name has been spoken. Not your earthly name. Your true name. The frequency signature that identifies your soul across lifetimes and dimensions. And in those councils, a consensus has formed. You are now classified as one of the rare ones, not because you're perfect, not because you're without flaw or shadow, but because you possess something that cannot be taught and cannot be faked. Incorruptible discernment. You cannot be bought with flattery. You cannot be manipulated with guilt. You cannot be seduced into betraying what you know to be true. This makes you dangerous. Dangerous to systems built on illusion. Dangerous to people who traffic in deception. Dangerous to agendas that require blind compliance. The word dangerous here doesn't mean violent or destructive. It means effective against darkness. A light that cannot be dimmed is dangerous to those who thrive in shadow. A voice that will not be silenced is dangerous to those who control through suppression. A soul that will not abandon its truth is dangerous to those who profit from confusion. And so you're flagged, marked, recognized as someone who will not be easily swayed, gaslit, or redirected. The armies of light see you as an asset, a stabilizer, someone who can hold frequency in chaos. The forces of shadow see you as an obstacle, someone who will expose, resist, and refuse to participate in deception. Both sides adjust their approach to you accordingly. The light begins sending reinforcement synchronicities, allies, resources that align with your mission. The shadow begins sending interference distractions, tests disguised as opportunities, people designed to drain or derail you. And in the center of it all, you stand, more awake than you've ever been, more alone than you've ever felt, but more aligned than you've ever known. This is what recognition looks like. It doesn't feel like a trophy. It feels like responsibility. And then, in the highest realms where language dissolves into light, the event was witnessed. The archangels, beings of such immense frequency that their presence would shatter human consciousness, paused in their cosmic functions. Michael, the protector of divine order, noted your refusal to betray your discernment. Gabriel, the messenger of truth, recorded the moment you chose clarity over comfort. Raphael, the healer of fractured souls, observed your willingness to see pain without becoming bitter. Uriel, the keeper of divine wisdom, acknowledged that your sight had pierced beyond the illusion. These are not symbolic figures. These are intelligences that govern the architecture of spiritual reality, and they do not give attention lightly. For them to notice a single soul amid billions means that soul has done something that affects the larger pattern. Your decision to honor your discernment, to refuse the false smile, to step back from the calculated warmth, it sent a ripple through the fabric of consciousness. Because every time a human chooses truth over illusion, it weakens the grip of deception on the collective. Every time someone refuses to gaslight themselves, it creates a crack in the matrix of manipulation. You didn't just protect yourself. You struck a blow for clarity itself. And in the throne room of creation, your choice was seen, not as a grand heroic act, but as a quiet, powerful alignment with the original design. You became what you were always meant to be, a being who sees truly and acts accordingly. And in that moment, something shifted in the cosmic ledger. Your assignment was updated. Your permissions were expanded. Your protection was increased, because you proved you could be trusted with sight. And sight, in a world built on blindness, is the most revolutionary gift of all. And so the decree was issued, not spoken in words, but encoded into the quantum field that governs probabilities and outcomes. From the highest source of intelligence, call it God, the universe, the infinite consciousness, a command went forth. This one has seen and not turned away. This one has known and not denied. This one has chosen alignment over acceptance. Activate the dormant codes. Release the seals. Let the true identity come online. In mystical terms, this is what initiates call the quickening. It's the moment when everything you were preparing for suddenly becomes real. When the armor you didn't know you were forging suddenly materializes. When the training you didn't realize you were undergoing suddenly makes sense. The decree is not a reward. It's a recognition that you're ready for the next level of engagement. That you've proven you can handle seeing more, knowing more, being more without losing yourself. Most souls never reach this point. They plateau at comfortable levels of awareness. They prefer the safety of partial sight. They choose the ease of not knowing over the responsibility of knowing. But you didn't. You kept peeling back layers even when it hurt. You kept questioning even when believing would have been simpler. You kept seeing even when blindness would have been more socially acceptable. And so the universe has no choice but to respond in kind. The decree activates latent abilities. Suddenly, your intuition sharpens to the point of clairvoyance. You start knowing things you have no logical way of knowing. You sense outcomes before they unfold. You read rooms, people, and situations with eerie accuracy. This isn't magic. It's alignment. When you stop lying to yourself, reality stops lying to you. When you honor what you perceive, perception deepens. When you validate your inner knowing, that knowing expands exponentially. The decree has been issued. Your spiritual DNA is rewriting itself in real time. And there's no going back to who you were before. Here's what they've known about you all along, what you're only now beginning to remember. You are not who you think you are. The identity you've carried, your name, your history, your wounds, your roles, those are the costume, not the essence. Beneath the surface personality, beneath the accumulated traumas and cultural conditioning, there exists an ancient architecture. You are a celestial warrior who volunteered for Earth assignment, not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. Before you took this body, before you forgot who you were, you stood in councils of light and raised your hand. You said yes to incarnating during the most chaotic period of human history, because you knew your frequency was needed here. You are what the old texts call a light bringer, a way shower, a guardian soul. In different traditions, different names: Bodhisattva, Tzaddik, Keeper of the Flame. The language changes, but the function remains the same. You are here to hold a frequency of truth and clarity in an ocean of distortion. You are encoded with the ability to see through illusion, because your assignment requires it. You cannot liberate what you cannot see. You cannot heal what you won't acknowledge. You cannot transform what you refuse to perceive accurately. And so you were built different, wired different. Your sensitivity isn't a weakness, it's a sensor array. Your inability to ignore things isn't a flaw, it's a feature. Your refusal to pretend isn't difficult, it's divine design. You've spent years thinking something was wrong with you because you couldn't just go along, couldn't just accept, couldn't just ignore what others ignored. But nothing is wrong. You're just finally coming online. The warrior is waking up. The ancient soul is remembering. The celestial architect is returning to full function. And everyone around you is about to feel the shift. Your mission, now that you've activated to this level, is crystalline in its clarity. You are here to anchor integrity in a world that has normalized deception, to hold the frequency of authentic sight in a culture that rewards performance, to model the possibility of remaining open-hearted without being naive, trusting without being foolish, compassionate without being exploitable. This is not about becoming a teacher or a leader in the conventional sense. You don't need a platform or a following to fulfill this assignment. Your mission operates at the energetic level. Every room you enter, you bring calibration. Every conversation you have, you bring truth frequency. Every relationship you maintain, you bring the standard of realness. People in your presence start feeling uncomfortable with their own masks. Liars stumble over their words. Manipulators feel exposed. Not because you accuse or attack, but because your energy doesn't participate in the game. You refuse to pretend. You refuse to minimize what you see. You refuse to accept shadows as if they're normal. And that refusal creates a zone of influence where pretense becomes exhausting and authenticity becomes magnetic. Some people will exit your life during this phase, not because you pushed them away, but because they can't maintain their false self in your presence. The effort becomes too great. The dissonance becomes unbearable. They'll find reasons to create distance. They'll blame you for being too intense or too much. Let them go. They're not your assignment. Your assignment is the ones who are ready to wake up, the ones who've been pretending to sleep, but secretly hoping someone would give them permission to open their eyes. Those souls will find you. They'll recognize something in you that mirrors something in them. And without you saying a word, they'll start shedding their own masks. That's your work. That's your mission. To be so committed to truth that others find the courage to stop lying. And now watch what happens in the physical realm. Because spiritual alignment always, eventually, manifests materially. The universe operates on reciprocity. When you serve truth, truth serves you. When you hold integrity, integrity holds you. This isn't wishful thinking. It's cosmic law. You're about to notice doors opening that were previously locked. Opportunities appearing that have no logical source. Money flowing from unexpected directions. Resources showing up exactly when needed. People offering help without being asked. Problems resolving themselves with strange ease. This isn't luck. This is divine logistics. When you're aligned with your mission, the universe rearranges circumstances to support that mission. You get moved to the front of lines you didn't know you were in. You get access to rooms you didn't try to enter. You get introductions to people who become catalysts for entire new chapters. But here's the key. These blessings come with zero compromise required. You won't have to betray yourself to receive them. You won't have to smile at the calculated smile. You won't have to ignore what you see to keep the door open. The blessings that come now are clean, aligned, sourced from your truth rather than your performance. Some of what you previously had will fall away because it was built on the old frequency, the version of you that didn't fully trust your sight, that still played the game occasionally, that dimmed your knowing to keep peace. That version is dead now, and everything built on that foundation has to crumble. Don't mourn it. It was training wheels. What's coming is the real vehicle. The life that matches who you actually are, not who you are pretending to be. Prosperity built on pretense is prison. Prosperity built on presence is paradise. Get ready for the latter. Here's what you need to understand about the power you now carry. You don't have to do anything extra. You don't have to preach, teach, post, or perform. Your existence at this frequency is the work. Every person who encounters you, even briefly, even digitally, receives a transmission. It's involuntary. It's automatic. Your energy speaks before your mouth opens. And what it says is this: you don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to accept what feels wrong. You don't have to silence your knowing to keep the peace. Some people will hear that transmission and feel relief so profound they'll start crying without understanding why. Others will hear it and feel rage because you re-threatening the structure they've built their entire identity around. Both responses are awakening. Both are part of the ripple. You're going to start noticing that people change after spending time with you. They start speaking up in situations where they used to stay silent. They start walking away from relationships they were tolerating. They start trusting their gut even when it contradicts the consensus. And they won't necessarily attribute it to you. They'll think they just suddenly got brave, suddenly got clear, suddenly decided enough was enough. But you'll know. You'll recognize your frequency in their newfound courage. This is how light spreads. Not through convincing, through contagion. Not through argument, through atmosphere. You're no longer trying to wake people up. You're simply awake. And awakeness is catching. The ones who are ready will catch it from you without you saying a word. The ones who aren't will exit your field, and that too is perfect. You're not here to save everyone. You're here to activate the ones who volunteered for activation. And that's exactly what's happening, whether you see it yet or not. What you're experiencing is not isolated. You are not alone in this. Right now, across the planet, thousands of souls are going through the exact same activation sequence. Different circumstances, different triggers, but the same essential awakening. They're also learning to see through calculated smiles. They're also choosing integrity over acceptance. They're also feeling the loneliness of clear sight. They're also being tested, watched, and activated. This is not coincidence. This is coordination. There is a global network of lightbringers coming online simultaneously because the collective consciousness has reached a tipping point. Humanity is at a crossroads between doubling down on delusion or breaking through into a new paradigm of radical honesty. And the outcome of that crossroads depends on how many people are willing to stop pretending. You are part of a distributed team. You may never meet most of them in person, but you're connected through frequency. You're reinforcing each other's resolve just by staying true. Every time one of you refuses to ignore what you see, it makes it easier for another to do the same. Every time one of you honors your discernment, it strengthens the field for all. This is how paradigms shift, not through one massive leader, through thousands of ordinary people making micro decisions for truth in their daily lives. You're a node in that network now, a point of light in a constellation that's forming in real time. And the more you commit to your clarity, the brighter your node becomes, the easier it is for others to find their way to their own. You're not alone. You're part of an ancient bloodline that incarnates during collapse to anchor the new. And you're all waking up right on schedule. If this message has resonated with something deep inside you, if you felt the truth of it vibrating in your bones, then you know what I know. You're one of them. One of the ones who volunteered. One of the ones who's waking up. One of the ones who can no longer unsee what you've seen. And now you have a choice. You can close this video and go back to pretending it was just entertainment. Or you can acknowledge what just happened here. You can honor the recognition that occurred. You can accept that you've been activated and there's no going back. If you choose the latter, here's what I need you to do. First, drop a 777 in the comments. Not for luck, not for superstition, but as a signal. As a way of telling the universe and the others in this network, I see this. I claim this. I am ready for what comes next. Second, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because the content coming is specifically designed for activated souls, for people who can handle the deeper layers, for warriors who are done with surface-level spirituality. Third, share this video with one person. Just one. Someone you suspect is also waking up. Someone who's been struggling with seeing too much, feeling too deeply, knowing too clearly. They need to hear this. They need to know they're not crazy. They're chosen. And finally, Stay until the very last second of this video. Not because I'm hiding some secret at the end, but because completion is a ritual. Finishing what you start signals to the universe that you're serious, that you follow through, that you're reliable. And reliability is what qualifies you for greater assignments. This is your moment. This is your activation. Don't let it pass unmarked. Claim it. 777 in the comments. Subscribe, share, and stay to the end. The universe is watching to see what you do next. Show them who you really are.